This is ridiculous. One NHL insider said more moves are coming for the Blue Shirts, while another insider said there is one move that Chris Drury is currently not considering, and it will have Rangers fans really concerned. Welcome back to Rangers Digest. We are built for Blue Shirt fandom, and I'm your host, Bret Botfeld. But before we get into today's video, a quick reminder that about 77% of you that currently watch these videos are unsubscribed. So what are you guys doing? Please hit that free subscribe button down below so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers. Not only that, guys, but so you can be part of something special here at Rangers Digest. Guys, let's hop right into the video. I came across a tweet late last night on X from the great Bald Panarin, and he said some points that a lot of fans need to understand so they stop wasting their time talking about unrealistic trades or signings. He goes on to list a few bullet points here, and I want to go through it. The first one is Soucy is not going anywhere, guys. And this was all but confirmed by Rangers NHL insider Vince Mercogliano. Let's get to that report. A little over a week ago, Vince went on to say it sounds like Chris Drury may be hesitant to trade Soucy because he gave up a high third-round pick for it all to fall flat. Now, the hope is Soucy rebounds under Mike Sullivan. It's a decent hope since Sully is a top 5 coach in the NHL, but it's also the sunk cost fallacy, the phenomenon whereby a person is reluctant to abandon a strategy or course of action because they have invested heavily in it, even when it is clear that abandonment would be more beneficial. Guys, that came from the great Vince Mercogliano. Let's take a look at the projected lineup from Puckpedia.com. Soucy is currently slated to play second-line defense on that left side. And guys, I am not happy about this. I know most of you are not happy about this. Let's take a look at Soucy's statistics over his NHL career. This was once a reliable, productive NHL defenseman, which is why myself and others were high on this move when the Rangers made it at the trade deadline. I had higher hopes than what I have seen from Soucy as a Ranger. Like I said, if we take a look at his statistics right here, he is coming off his worst season in the NHL, and it's no surprise that he's age 30, guys. He hit age 30, and it looks like he fell off a cliff. All right, guys, he was slower, he wasn't as physical, and he was a non-threat on the offensive end. This is a player that was a complete dud. Chris Drury, as you saw, gave up a lot to get him. He also does not want to sell low on him. Vince has also said that. But the reality is, guys, I don't believe Soucy will raise his trade value. I think that, you can make the case that this season was an outlier if we take a look at the statistics. But what I believe is that this is the first of what's going to be a downhill decline. I believe this will be the new norm when it comes to Soucy. I don't see him returning to the player that he was, which was obviously not a star, not a superstar, but like I said, a good, reliable defenseman that the Rangers thought they were getting, and they simply did not get that player. I believe he is going to continue to go downhill here, guys, and I want to move off him as soon as I can to free up, as you can see there, that $3.25 million, but Vince has said his stance has not changed. There has been no new reporting on it. He believes Chris Drury will hold on to Soucy here. Going back to the tweet from Bald Panarin, bullet point number 2. No new third-line center is being brought in. Now, guys, why is that? Why is no new third-line center being brought in? Mika Zibanejad is slated to play third-line center for the Rangers. But guess what? The Rangers don't have the cap space to bring in another player here, guys. Another effective player to play third-line center. And you know why that is? That is because Chris Drury will not move Soucy. That is a major problem to me. The Rangers have less than $1 million to play with, just $777,000. If they were to move Soucy, they'd have close to $4 million. They'd actually have a little bit over $4 million. And then what you could do is, you could trade Soucy, replace him with Vakanainen, who I believe is better. He is younger. He's making half the money. He's coming off his best NHL season, while Soucy's coming off his worst. And I've said multiple times here on the channel, and I'm going to stay true to it, that the Rangers need to be in the business of bringing in players on the uprise rather than the decline. Vakanainen, why are we sticking him on the bench when he's coming off his best year? Why are we rewarding Carson Soucy, putting him on that second line when he was absolutely abysmal for the Rangers? So that's step one. Trade Soucy, put Vakanainen there. Then what do? Now you have $4 million to play with. What I would do is I would put Mika Zibanejad at right wing. It's a small sample size, but last year he was a much, much better player, far and away better at right wing. In 25 games, he had 28 points. He was an over 1 point per game player at right wing. At center, he was atrocious. You mean to tell me that if you're really in the business of winning Stanley Cup championships, if you're in the business of being a contender year in and year out, you're going to pay your third line center $8.5 million? Seriously? He is making the second most money on the team. The second most. And he's on your third line? Make it make sense. It doesn't. Not only that, but Mika Zibanejad has a lot to prove. This is a guy coming off another down year. 3 years in a row he's been on the decline. 62 points, which I get, is solid production, but not Mika Zibanejad standards. Not the standards of your second highest paid player. Not only that, but I know Rangers fans are fed up with him because he was a ringleader at that players only meeting at Artemi Panarin's house where they basically conspired to quit on the team. Is that fair to Rangers fans? Is that fair to you guys out there? Is that fair to me? You guys are the ones that spend your time, your hard-earned money, your energy to attend these games at Madison Square Garden. A lot of you out there will travel to watch this team as well. Do you think that's fair? I don't. I believe Mika Zibanejad has a lot to prove here. Move him to first line right wing. That's what he's getting paid to do, guys. Not play on the third line. He is our second highest paid player. Not only that, but it just makes the most sense. If we take a look at the right wing position, it's not good enough for me. It's not going to cut it. Alexis Lafreniere playing on the first line, I can't take us serious as a true playoff team, let alone a contender. I can't. Now, Lafreniere is a good player. He's coming off a bad year, but I still believe he will be a solid contributor, just not on the first line. And let's move down to the second line. There's Gabe Perreault. Look, I really like Gabe Perreault. I know you guys like him as well. But we have to be realistic, guys. We have to be realistic. He played 5 NHL games last year. He didn't score a point. Didn't have a goal, didn't have an assist. I still believe he's our best prospect. Not only that, he was a 2-point per game player for the U.S. national hockey team. I like that he's an elite playmaker. He may not be an elite skater yet. He may not be the most physical or the best defender or anything like that. But I love that at such a young age, he's got that elite playmaking ability, and we saw it on the U.S. national hockey team. I believe there's a place for Perreault on this roster, just not right away. So I'd start him in the AHL, really bump up his minutes, let him get that playing time. I'd then bring him up when he's ready. So that's what I'm doing. I'm replacing Soucy with Vakanainen. I'm moving Mika to right wing. I'm putting Perreault in the AHL just to start the year. But going back to the tweet, the Rangers really can't bring in a third-line center. Now, we know Larry Brooks has said that more moves are coming for the Rangers. He said it in his New York Post article just a few days ago. But how are they supposed to do that with less than $1 million? They don't want to trade Soucy. How are they going to free up that cap space? So that brings me to my next point. In-house options, guys. In-house options. Take a look at Johnny Brzezinski sitting there in the press box. Take a look at that. He needs to be on the third line to start the year. That is my opinion. He's earned it. He's coming off his best season in the NHL. It'd give that third line a nice balance. You have Bret Botfeld, who is extremely young. You'd have Brzezinski, who's a leader, who's a veteran, who's coming off his best season in the NHL. And then you'd have Radish, who's somewhere in the middle at 27 years old. A guy that could do a little bit of everything on the offensive and defensive end. Not a star, but can certainly contribute on that third line. He's been a 20-goal scorer before with the Chicago Blackhawks. Hopefully he can turn back into that player, or at least, be the player he was last year for the Capitals. That'd be great. That'd make the third line balanced. Not only that, guys, but Brzezinski, he's a leader on this team. He really is. Now, Elliot Friedman came out yesterday on his 32 Thoughts podcast, and one thing he said that was extremely interesting was that the biggest win for Chris Drury this offseason thus far is the fact that there's been no drama. Now, guys, we could get into a situation where there could be some drama because Will Cooley said this is about Johnny Brzezinski. He's been great for me personally. He was like my role model in Hartford my first year as a pro. I was always hanging out at his house with some older guys. And he's obviously huge for some of the younger guys like Berard, who I just alluded to, and Otter that are newer to the team. He's just obviously huge for everyone here. Guys, I understand that Brzezinski doesn't have the pedigree that a Jacob Trouba does. That's obvious. But last year, Chris Drury, things got messy, and they got messy fast. There was a lot of drama, and you saw what happened. The team went from President's Trophy winner, 2 games away from a Stanley Cup, to a complete disaster, 13th in the East. Let's try to keep it that way. Let's avoid the drama this offseason, please. There is no point to not play Johnny Brzezinski. He's earned it. At least let him start the season on that third line. I mean, the guy is coming off the best year of his life. He deserves the opportunity. I would like to see him, not only because he played well last year, because it just makes the most sense to me. Moving Mika to right wing and putting Brzezinski there to replace him on the third line. Now, obviously, if I had it my way, I'd move Soucy and put Vakanainen in there, because I believe Vakanainen's earned it as well, coming off his best season in the NHL. Which brings me to my next point. But before I go there, I want to bring up and go back to Gabe Perreault for just a second here. A lot of Rangers fans love this guy, as do I. In a poll that was conducted by ForeverBlueShirts.com, it's clear that Rangers fans believe he is our best prospect. But like I said, just because he's our best prospect and has a bright future doesn't mean he needs to start on our second line right away. Let him get some more time in the AHL, and then bring him up when he's ready. I believe Mike Sullivan will know when it's time. But like I said, nothing against Perreault. I know he's skating with Patrick Kane, and he's been working hard. But let's give him a little more time to develop. Now my last point. Going back to the tweet. Schneider, left-hand defense 2. Morrow, right-hand defense 3. Look, I disagree with this. We go back to the chart here. Schneider is listed on that third line, which is where I would have him. So as you saw there, Bald Panarin had him on the second line. I would like to see him on that third line with Scott Morrow. And the reason why is because Braden Schneider is, not a natural left-hand defenseman. I wouldn't stick him on that second line right away. I'd let him get some time, at least 10 games to get used to the left side. Not only that, but him and Morrow could be a good combination on that third line because Morrow brings you the offensive upside. And Schneider has offensive upside as well, but I would just let him focus on being a defensive enforcer on that left side. Don't try to be a scorer or anything like that. I believe Morrow could do that for you. Let's not forget his first 2 seasons at the University of Massachusetts. He put up 30-plus points both years. So I do agree with Bald Panarin in the sense that eventually I want to see Schneider on the second line. But for now, I would have him on that third line. That's just me. But guys, that's going to do it here today. For another sizzling edition of Rangers Digest, I am fascinated to hear what you guys have to say in the comments section. Don't forget to give us a follow on X because the conversation always continues over there. It is at Rangers Digest YT on X. And one last reminder that if you still haven't hit that free subscribe button, hit that free subscribe button down below so you can stay up to date with everything New York Rangers.